Hey, how's it going? It's Douglas James. I am sitting here with my friend, mentor, and business partner, Nic Peterson. How's it going, brother?
It's going. Like sitting with you in this beautiful home.
I mean, hey, we've been bouncing around together, I think, in the last few weeks, right? Quite a few conferences. Steve Sims, Joe Polish.
Joe Polish, yeah, Gray
Yeah.
Wolf.
You just had a massive event we got back from, right?
Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah. So you've been, we've met about 18 months ago because I was getting super curious about crypto and NFTs and how to incorporate that into my businesses. And I attended your first crypto event. I think that was in November. So it was about a year ago.
Yeah.
Right. And that was Degengineering one. Right.
Yeah.
And I think just from being close to you and being around you, I've learned so much about crypto, this technology and blockchain. And I mean, we've had a pretty crazy year in crypto, right? And you own a few companies, right? We were talking, you have the Wolf Den, right? You have Guardian Academy, Gray Wolf Summit. Would you consider that its own business entity?
Yeah, technically Gray Wolf Mountain is the entity, so the ranch and all that.
Got it. Awesome. Yeah, and I want to talk about the ranch and everything because we just went yesterday. That was impressive. Yeah. But yeah, so I just wanted to sit down and talk to you about crypto. It's been a pretty crazy year. I mean, in time of shooting this interview, we've had some of the biggest black swan events, and we've seen some tops in Bitcoin at 69,000. Now shooting this video, it's like 16,000, right? So there's a lot of fear and uncertainty in the market. And I've learned so much from you about how to handle your emotions, how to better discern and make better decisions, right? And get closer to what matters to you. Just talk to me a little bit about, with all this fear and uncertainty in the market, we just had FTX literally go down like a few days ago. I mean, people are freaking out. Like, I mean, what's your take on this whole situation and how can we be better going forward?
Yeah, that's a great question. The first thing when we talk about crypto, and you mentioned, this new technology, it's helpful to understand how technology diffuses. And that's a big thing that a lot of the fear in the market right now is retail investors. Retail investors, by and large, don't truly understand diffusion of like a technology or an innovation. Meaning by the time most people hear about it, it's already done very well for a very long time. And crypto is a little bit different, right? We have people that traditionally you'd have to be at least an accredited investor to have optics into some of this stuff. And right now everybody does. So the other thing to consider too is with technology, with anything, there's this level of, if you think in terms of probability and risk and anti-fragility, it's like, look, when you create airplanes, you create plane crashes. Plane crashes did not exist before airplanes.
That's true.
Right? And so can you imagine, we fly now all the time, but imagine the first flights, they were going down all over the place. Yeah. It was pretty risky because it's a new technology, it's a new thing, it's a new way to travel. And so the downside is a lot of people are getting wrecked. Anchor Protocol, FTX, Celsius, and they're alarmed. And I understand why they would be, but it's not actually that alarming. You can Google right now a list of government bailouts, and you'll see all the banks. They'd all go under if they weren't bailed out. So this is actually a pretty common thing. Get over leveraged, get wrecked. Of course, when things get bailed out, it's not nearly as catastrophic and terrifying. So we have this new technology. People are being exposed to something in a stage they otherwise never would have been exposed to it. Okay? So it's like, okay, FTX, a lot of people know about it. Celsius, a lot of people know about it. It's very easy to use. Because it's easy to use, we tend to think it's less complex. The same complexities are still there. So they're hidden complexities. So when we put all this together, objectively, when we zoom out, in the DeFi crypto market, there's nothing that is really that alarming happening, which sounds really weird to people, right? But back to the plane crash, with every plane crash, when people first started flying, plane crash goes down, and everybody's like, oh, this is not a feasible way to travel. Flight won't work. But every plane crash that goes down, an investigation comes. Why did this go down? That investigation makes every subsequent plane ride safer. And that's the stage we're in crypto right now.
Yeah.
Like, yep, Celsius went down, Anchor went down, FTX went down. I don't want to say I would have guessed FTX, like they seem to be pretty sound business, but you never know. The fact that a high percentage of these companies are going under is not surprising. So what we hope for, or what I hope for, given what I know in my experience, is that they get investigated, and those investigations lead to the next round of exchanges and, unbank yourself platforms are safer. And regulation hopefully comes quick. It's a big thing. So just realize fear, I get it. Two things about this. Fear, I understand. You're playing in a technology that is not yet regulated. And you have to know, and most people are in it because they want to get rich quick. They don't even understand what they're doing. So if you come into a technology that is not regulated, things are going to go up, they're going to go down, they're going to disappear. That's always how it's been, right? So that's one. Two, not only is it not regulated, but we don't actually understand it at all. And it's going to take time. So there's nothing alarming except for the fact that, from my perspective, so many people have so much certainty about something, whatever, pick an asset, a crypto asset, and don't actually understand what the purpose of the asset is. You hear all the time, what's the utility? I think a function. What is the function of this? And we don't understand it, and then we're confused about the movement. Now, just for perspective, I'm not saying this is not a prediction, but just for perspective, Bitcoin is at about 16 grand as we're filming this. It was 69 grand. Really easy to go, what's wrong with Bitcoin?
Right.
What's wrong with this asset? What's wrong with that asset? And we need to zoom out and realize, because we weren't there for this. If you're panicked about crypto, you weren't there for this. People were sitting having this same conversation when Bitcoin was $14. Because it went from like 100 to like 14. And they're going, oh, cut my losses, what's going on? Bitcoin will never work, yada, yada, yada. So from that perspective, from $14 to 16 grand, nothing looks broken to me. From 69 grand to 16 grand, that's terrifying. So like orienting yourself on an appropriate time frame, like zooming out, is really important. And people aren't doing that. They're doing, and this is just for anybody that watches this, it's like the second I've heard about Bitcoin for years and years and years, and I watch it, and it goes down. I'm so glad I never bought it. But then it goes up, and then I'm so upset I never bought it. Then we watch it, and then we buy it. And for some reason in our brain, we're like, okay, this is where it starts. And then we measure everything from that point forward. But like, we can't just neglect the history. Like, if you bought it 69 grand and it's now 16 grand, that's not a Bitcoin problem, that's a timing problem.
Right.
Time will tell if it's a Bitcoin problem. If Bitcoin goes zero and stays there, it's a Bitcoin problem. If you panic sell at 16 grand and Bitcoin goes to $1 million, well, that's your own problem. That's a timing problem. So most of the population is just not prepared to be in something this innovative, unregulated, and they don't this seems more dangerous than my bank. Like, yeah, well, it's hundreds of years younger than your bank. And it's not regulated like your bank. And actually, your bank also took your money and used it, got over leveraged, and would have went under if it didn't get bailed out. So it's just like your bank.
Yeah.
And so people just don't fully understand what's going on. And that's where a lot of the fear is coming from. At first it's greed, and then it's fear, and then it's greed again, then it's fear again.
Right. No, that's good. And I just I'll circle back and say this, I think a lot of people get into crypto because they're looking to make money. Like, people are looking for things to invest in, to buy. Like, people are starting businesses and they're doing X, Y, Z in real estate. So crypto is like this new disruptive technology, blockchain, where people are looking to be greedy fucks, like we know, and make a lot of money. But then there's this whole other side of it. Like, there's this whole like gambling side of it. People are like when I first started 18 months ago, I was turning $100 into like 10 grand overnight. It was ridiculous what was happening with these moonshots and everything. But the stuff that I was buying when I started, there was nothing there. It was just like but they were coming out with coins with like a simple one-page website, and the project literally was going nowhere, right? And you're seeing less of that now. And you talked about regulation. I know for institutional money and for big players to really get involved, we're going to need regulation. So I do agree with that. But the whole other side of this, there's people like you that's building in the space, that's actually doing good in the world, and that's why we're friends. That's why I'm in your home right now, because I believe in what you're doing, right? So what are some things people could be thinking about right now instead of like being degenerates and trying to buy into this? I mean, are we, first of all, Nick, like this technology is good. Like it's probably gonna be around for a long time, right? Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll just touch on that real quick. Blockchain, that's the technology it requires a paradigm shift, but that's a game changer. Bank of New York, Microsoft, IBM, they've been building blockchain for 5-6 years because it's a better technology, faster, potentially safer, much cheaper, and all it does is instead of storing data in columns and rows, it stores it in blocks that are validated by thousands of anonymous people. So it is blockchain is a better technology. It is not going anywhere. It'll very likely be Disney, Starbucks, Coca-Cola. They're all moving to blockchain for the rewards programs and for some of their games and all that stuff, because it is a better way to store, send, and secure data. Now, some of that data we consider currency. Cryptocurrencies are just assets that move on the blockchain. Cryptocurrencies probably are not going anywhere either. I can't imagine there will be 1 billion Shiba Inu monkey Doge coins floating around anymore.
Yeah.
Especially post-regulation, because they serve no purpose. And eventually those things die, But the actual technology, if you say, hey, look, do you have, inventory? Do you ship? Do you receive? Do you store data? Do you collect data? Do you have a rewards program? Do you have DeLorean? The CEO of DeLorean was telling me, I think they already launched it. They can sell their cars with NFTs, which makes sense in this case. And when you you just buy the title, which is NFT, it stores like the Carfax, how many times the left door was opened, right door was opened, how many times the oil was changed. It's an incredible use of new technology. Faster, cheaper, safer, it's kind of cool. So it's not going anywhere. It'll be ubiquitous, and it may be just to give you guys an idea or kind of shift the thinking. It's like Amazon Web Service. Most people don't directly interact with Amazon Web Service. They wouldn't know how, but it's ubiquitous. Every time they watch Netflix, GE runs on Amazon Web Service. Some of Ethereum runs on Amazon Web Service. So it could be ubiquitous in a way where everybody's using it every day but is not directly interfacing with the blockchain. Right. That's helpful to know, because then you're not so much going, what coin do I buy? Or what crypto project do I invest in? You might say, man, Netflix is going to crush it. What in general do I think is going to crush it? And then you go a step further and say, well, what technology are they using? Because if Netflix crushes it, Amazon Web Service crushes it. Right. And much of blockchain is very likely to be that Amazon Web Service that you're not interfacing with. So it's not going anywhere. Yeah. And I know that they are working hard to regulate it because they know it's not going anywhere. If there was a high probability that crypto, blockchain, all stuff is going to go away, they wouldn't be working so hard to regulate it.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you said like it's the underlying technology. So eventually, consumers are going to be using it, but they don't really know that they're using it. It's kind of like when you go do a Google search, you're actually using HTTPS protocol, but you don't know it. Or if you make a phone call, it's the VIA protocol. Yep. Right. There's all these different protocols on the internet that we use. So we just think of Yahoo, we think of T-Mobile, but there's underlining. So that's an interesting perspective. What are some crypto projects that you're looking at right now that you think are kind of leading the way? That's I know, for example, like Polygon, like they partner with Disney, right? Yeah. I think you guys are doing some with Polygon as well, right? Yeah. So semi-biased, but you tell me, what do you think are some of the projects to look out for that's actually doing some good, that are probably going to be blue chips, for the longer term that you're most excited about?
Yeah. So based on what I see, there's always risks. So again, I'm just speaking in probability and risks, not certainties. A week ago, as a business, not as a person necessarily, but as a business, FTX looked pretty sound because we can't always see what's going on, under the cover. So if I'm looking at a crypto project, I'm looking at a few things. I'm looking at just from a sustainability model, if it's is this a security? Is this a currency? Is this sufficiently decentralized? Is it going to be security if it's not now? Does it have a profit model that makes sense? Things that people aren't always thinking about, right? So outside of Bitcoin, most projects are going to need a profit model that supports the project. Because if you think about it, if there's no profit model, the only way to pay for any kind of development is to sell off the asset, which personally I'd rather avoid projects that are going to get hit with a $10 million bill and have to sell off 10 million of their own assets to pay it. That's just my personal preference. So if you look around, Polygon Studios, okay, Polygon Studios is a U.S. entity, and they just got Starbucks, they just got Disney. This is all public information, so I'm not sharing anything that can't be shared. They got Starbucks, Disney, Coca-Cola, and Meta. I do believe Polygon has the highest probability of getting the mass market. They're working very hard on it. They have all the IP they need. They're acquiring more IP. What will be interesting to see is their profit model. So I believe Polygon Studios has the highest probability of winning the mass market. What we don't know is their profit model, because if they're going to run it down to zero fees, for example, I'm not entirely sure how much Polygon winning the mass market actually benefits the Matic token. It could. We don't know the profit model yet. Right. So you got okay, I believe Polygon Studios 100%. I'm not sure if that benefits their token, Matic. I just don't know yet. So I look at Yuga Labs. Yuga Labs is great. Yuga is represented by Fenwick West. We're represented by Fenwick West, so I'm a little biased. But what I do know is that Yuga Labs is going to work to do everything they can to stay above board with regulatory stuff. And they just got a $4.5 billion valuation.
Wow.
And so Yuga's great. Yuga gets it. What other? Binance. Binance has been just run. Now, Binance has been run like a for-profit business, and they've been very transparent about it. A lot of people don't like it because they want this decentralized, But if you look at this point in time, right now, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Celsius, FTX, Anchor, all these huge protocols kind of shit in the bed. And Binance is just chilling because they've never used any leverage or anything. They're insanely profitable. They have a great cash position. I think they have the most stable, safest, stable BUSD. So the run, it's kind of what I'm looking for is I understand the appeal of everything being decentralized. But projects that are actually run like a for-profit business for sustainability, I believe those will be the blue chips. So then we could think, okay, let's say Polygon Studios crushes it. I'm not quite sure how that's going to benefit Matic yet. It could be incredibly beneficial. And fundamentally, it might not benefit Matic at all. But the sentiment, people that don't know what's going on, they might buy a shit ton of Matic. Matic could run just because people have no idea what's going on. That's what makes this market so frustrating is being more educated in the short term doesn't necessarily help you.
Right.
You can just follow hype and who knows what'll happen. So I look at Polygon Studios, but here's what we do know is that regardless of their profit model, Polygon, assuming it becomes the mass market layer 1, it's actually layer 2, but it becomes a mass market network, it settles on Ethereum, right? So I think 40% of Ethereum's profit comes from Matic Polygon transactions settling on Ethereum. So if Polygon blows up, it's very good for Ethereum. So I'm looking at, for me personally, when I started building, I stopped investing in a lot of stuff because I just focused on building. Bitcoin, fundamentally, Bitcoin is nearly perfect fundamentally. Now, when you see it go, I'll just throw this in for everybody. I know it went from whatever to 69 grand to 16 grand to all, none of that represents the fundamentals of Bitcoin. Right. That's all just humans being greedy and scared. Yeah. The actual fundamentals are very strong. And when regulation comes, it improves the fundamentals because it's a regulated. We took what was ambiguous to Microsoft. Maybe Microsoft wants some Bitcoin. I don't know. But they can't invest in it right now. It's too ambiguous. When that ambiguity turns into clarity, Bitcoin is a fundamentally more sound asset. So regulation is very good. Even if you hate the idea of regulation, it will bring trillions of dollars in. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, it'd be pretty hard for Ethereum to lose. Again, the short-term price action is just people, it's just sentiment. Yeah. But if Polygon takes over the mass market and stays on Ethereum, the fundamentals of Ethereum have also improved indirectly. So hope that makes sense. We're looking at like fundamentally. Short-term, I have no fucking clue what people are going to do. None of us do. We're all maniacs. And then I'm looking at the projects that we're involved with. So full disclosure, totally biased here, but looking at like what we're doing with Wolf Den. Obviously, I feel very strongly about Wolf Den, but then we talk about like recovery punks.
Let's talk about that a little bit with Joe Polish and everything, because I mean he announced on stage last week that you guys are partnering up with Artists for Addicts and everything. Joe's mission is to help recovering addicts, right? And he was an addict himself, and he's been very public and humble in his story. Let's talk about Recovery Punks a little bit and what you're doing with Joe. Yeah,
so Joe has Artists for Addicts, which is a for-profit company, and their thing is using art as a force for good. A ton of recovering addicts, musicians, celebrities, Joe's very good friends with. And then Genius Recovery, which is a 501c3. And Genius Recovery is going to be funding a research project at Stanford, their behavior design lab, on addiction, recovery, and connection. And so what we're doing for Joe is we're getting together and we're doing recovery punks. So, like the crypto punks. It'll likely be a free mint for wolf pup holders and stuff, just to get them out there, get them in the hands, get people excited, educate them. And then all of the royalties are going to funding that Stanford project. And so that's going to kick off one of many, many things we're doing. But the crypto space, everybody's so worried about trying to get rich quick. They're missing such an incredible opportunity to do good. Yeah. And so we're going to get these recovery punks out there, 10,000 unique, very similar to crypto punks. It's kind of, the webpage kind of pays homage to CryptoPunks. Joe put a CryptoPunk in his book. And it's going to kick off this Artists for Addicts, Recovery Punk, Genius Recovery campaign. Where we're going to do as much cool shit as we can for these holders. And every time they change hands, every time they're bought and sold, 2.5% or whatever the royalties are go to funding this research project. It'll take 3 years for the research project to be done. So a few things happen. One is you were just at our event, right? We like to operate above what we call I got this from Joe, above the line of super credibility, where it's like, are these people legit? And they're like, oh, wow. Oh yeah, they're legit. And you look a little further, like, oh my God, they're really legit. Right. So we're trying to stay above the line of super credibility. Stanford helps with that, and making sure that all of these people trading stuff and all of this activity, some percentage of it. Some people are going to get rich. Some people are going to overpay for something and then have to sell it for cheaper. And that's all subjective. That's all the market. Regardless, all of that activity is going to helping recovering addicts. And that's really what we're doing there. It'll turn into a whole bunch of stuff, but that's step one. Yeah.
What do you think you're doing different? I mean, you probably know what you're doing different, but when you look at the marketplace and we were talking about the exchanges collapsing earlier and like what you're building, like I haven't heard of anyone doing what you just said in the NFT space or in the crypto space, right? So give me a rough idea of like, what do you think that you're doing? What did you learn from the market and how are you implementing that in your projects?
Yeah, good question. So step one is, and you know this about us, I'm looking at function over form, okay? Most of the market with new technology gets very distracted by the form. And then later on they have to make up a function or they don't have one at all. So you see a project with no utility, that's a form thing. So we're saying, so for me, and we can say Joe and partners and whatever, what is the most important thing we're trying to accomplish? And if we can accomplish that with traditional means, we'll just do that. So it's really a focus on the function of solving a problem first. What problem are we trying to solve? Okay. And then with the understanding that we have of blockchain, is blockchain a good solution to this problem? Right? So when people go, what do you think about the NFT industry? I already know they don't get it. NFTs are not an industry. I mean, call it one if you want, but it's not an industry. It's like, what do you think of the payment processing industry? You know, like you might be in the coaching industry. You use a payment processor. Somebody else has a car dealership. They use a payment processor, right? So all these industries use this tool, and that's really what NFTs are. It's really a tool, almost like a payment. It's almost like a payment processor and a proof of ownership. So if somebody goes, "What's the NFT industry?" I already know they're coming, and this is where most projects are coming from. They're like, "We should make a coin." For what? You know, like, it's like when you see, "Hey, I really want to hang this picture." Okay, I need a hammer. That makes sense. That's a function. When we think about form, it's like going, "Hey guys, you know what we should do today? We should find ways to use this hammer." Like, okay, what are we accomplishing? We're just finding ways to use a hammer, and that's what people are doing. So that's what most of the crypto industry is doing. At the highest level, the FTXs, the Celsiuses, many of them have a background in finance and banking. And so their function is likely, how do we make more money? And that's okay, but we see where it goes. At some point, it's gonna that model is very likely to blow up. Binance function is actually trying to spread. They're not fully decentralized, but they're actually trying to spread the idea of like self-efficacy and owning your own assets and all that. So it's a different function. Binance has a different function than FTX. FTX says, how do we make the most money? And they use crypto to try to do that. Binance says, how do we make this available to everybody? And they use their resources to do that. So they're actually similar forms, different functions. So what we do differently is we're hyper-focused on function. Does that make sense? So we're saying, okay, what are we trying to accomplish? And so for the Wolf Den, for example, the Wolf Den, I say, look, I do a lot of really cool shit. We know a lot of really cool people. For those of you that don't know, like we just had Robert Kiyosaki sitting in one of these chairs.
Yeah, he was sitting where you were sitting.
And Saturday we were hanging out with Jay Abraham and Joe Polish. And so we do a lot of cool stuff for cool people, and that's great. I don't want to set up funnels and payment processors and all that crap. I don't want to. I'm over it. And I've been over it for a while. So it's kind of like, well, how do we make this an economy where value accrues to me and others for all the cool stuff we do? It just so happens that NFTs do that. If you hold a Wolf Pup NFT, you can come do cool shit with us. If not, you can't. Yeah. And so what that does for me, the function is I could just hang out and do cool people and invite people places. I don't have to worry about all these different funnels and payment links. And you got a Wolf Pup NFT or you don't. Okay. So the Wolf Den for me is just a way for my tribe to come hang out, and I don't have to worry about tracing the royalties and the demand, the limited supply. So the limited supply creates the supply demand we want, and the royalties create the revenue stream we want. So that's the function for me. I could just do cool shit. Yuga Labs is similar. Yuga's like, hey, if you have a Bored Ape, you have access to cool shit. So that's one. Guardian Academy is like, okay, well, we have that. That's like an exclusive cultural thing, but we have a very strong need to educate. Like we really want to educate people. That's a different structure. There's 5,000 NFTs where the floor could go up and become prohibitive. We're not actually educating the masses. We're just hanging out with like 5,000 people at most. So the Guardian Academy, the function is entirely different. It's how do we educate as many people as possible, and that runs on through farming, through currency, right? So it just so happens to be a really great way. We happen to teach a lot about crypto. So by actually participating in the ecosystem, which requires our currencies, you're learning. You're pushing buttons, you're learning. So that's what we're doing different is we don't build things to get people excited about them. We don't build things to get people to try to buy them. We build things so that the things that we want to accomplish in this world make sense. And where where blockchain makes sense, we integrate it, and where it doesn't, we don't. And that's a lot of, that's the main thing that we do different. And I would say the project that is the most similar is actually probably Yuga Labs. They're similar, but that's how do we do good in the world? How do we educate people? How do we incentivize people? How do we create it? So like Joe Polish is a great example. Joe has Genius Network, and there's a whole economy inside of Genius Network. You've been to some of the events, right? There's a whole economy, and that's all great. And to some level, value accrues back to Genius Network because everybody knows, but there's no tangible value. And you can't do that with what he does, but imagine a world where all of this economy indirectly went back to Joe and his team. They would be even more incentivized to bring in cool shit, right? So that's what NFTs allow you to do. And for us, we have a much bigger vision, do a lot more good, so we have our own assets. So we have, instead of using Ethereum primarily, we're going to use Guard. And that's a whole different thing. But we're just trying to build a world where we can all just kind of do good and not have to worry about the logistics of collecting money.
Okay. Yes or no question. Do you guard your guard?
Yes.
What does guard your guard mean?
It means so many things. Is that also a yes or no question? Yes, that's what it means. So guard your guard, you'll see hashtag GYG, guard your guard. It is a reminder. So we have this saying, you are your own guide, you are your own guard. And that comes from a 4,200-year-old lineage. So we say guard your guard. It actually means remember everything you've learned. So I'll go through this really quick. There's the 3 levels of light. Dim. Dim light is impulsive, where you think you see very clearly what to do, and you actually don't see it clearly. We've all done that, where we thought this is a really good idea because I'm really emotional right now. And then we did it, and we're like, oh yeah, that was probably a bad idea. So that's a dim light. A moderate light is going, wait a minute, it's using your past experience to go, wait a minute. Like I sold Bitcoin at $14 because I was scared, and then it went to 16, then it went to 69 grand, then 16 grand. I really want to sell it at 16 grand because I'm scared. But it's just being able to reflect back, I did this before and it didn't work out well. Just thinking before you make an emotional decision, okay? The brightest light is actually understanding the core principles that govern the world, which is like CCA and stuff. So when we say guard your guard, it's actually a version of like zoom out and let more light enter the situation. Stay calm, reflect, think through your principles, get back to a state of sobriety. Don't get hijacked by fear, greed, headlines, whatever your stupid ass friends are telling you to do. So even if you don't actually have any guard, it is a reminder to ground yourself and really think like, what am I trying to accomplish? And what's the most efficient path to get there? So I don't FOMO into some stupid ass shit. And so that's what it means when we say guard your guard. It just slow down. You don't do what Douglas does because you're not him. Know yourself. Know your personality. Know what you're trying to accomplish, and don't forget it. And that's what we mean when we say guard your guard.
Awesome. So obviously we're talking about guard, but guard is also a treasury asset in your ecosystem, right? Do you want to talk about that and what does that coin do exactly?
Yeah. So guard's interesting because it was when the whole market was going down, guard ripped hard, and you saw it. So it's a good perspective piece though, because in January 12th, guard was 11 cents, and today it's like 60. Okay, I haven't looked at it in a couple days. So it's the only asset as of this moment. This can always change. It is the only asset in the world: gold, silver, S&P, Bitcoin, Shopify, you name it, that is worth more today than it was in January. But there's a timing thing, some people bought it at the top so there's a few reasons for that. One, The technology is not all that fancy. You don't need, Bitcoin is not fancy. It's just fundamentally sound. So Guard was built to be fundamentally sound. And so people are like, how does this happen? I've had so many developers come out and say, look, I look at all your code. I look at, what are you doing that's so special? How is this happening? I said, well, it's not in the code. It's in the people. So step one, we work with people. That's the human aspect. Understand your addiction, understand your impulse, understand what you actually want, understand when you're acting like an asshole, and stop doing that. And so one of the reasons the assets performs so well is because the humans tend to be better investors. So that's one reason. The second is we thought through what would be the safest way to set this up. So its primary pair, the pairs on the exchange, is BUSD, which as time goes on, it becomes clearer and clearer that was by far the best decision. It wasn't so clear back, a year and a half ago. So the process was not, how do we make as much money as possible? It wasn't, how do we get as much hype as possible? We sit there and we say, what is the least risky way to do this? That's a huge difference. A lot of projects are trying to get everybody excited. We're saying, no, how do we, if we're just standing on the other end of regulation, we win. So it's always come from a place of what is the least risky way to do this? And what's happening now, that fundamentally, Guard has a limited supply, 50 million in supply ever. It is probably functionally deflationary because people lose it. Some people will never sell it, so there'll never actually be 50 million floating around. But now what we're doing, and we're working with Polygon Studios, is we're building a world of guard your guard shit. So recovery punks. And we're like, how many projects can we bring in that is either intellectual property that improves the world or generates royalties and money that goes to people improving the world? That's what our whole entire universe is built on. So you saw it this weekend. We're building the metaverse. We have our real world. We do a ton of shit out here to help people. Joe does a ton of shit with Artists for Addicts. It's all going to accept Guard. The metaverse is going to run on Guard. Every NFT launch in the future, we're going to do the next couple ones in Ethereum because we're funding stuff, so it's easier to sell Ethereum. But we're going to flip a switch and we're going to have a whole world that runs on Guard as the currency. And that world is designed to educate people, improve their lives, remove suffering from themselves. Because once you remove suffering from yourself, you stop being an asshole, the world actually gets better. You don't have to go heal people. Just stop being an asshole. So we're building all this stuff. Some of it will be gamified. People won't even know what's happening. They'll be playing games and learning shit. Some people will come to seminars or come to events or go up to the mountains. But the whole world lives on the Guard ecosystem. So we needed a currency that really represented this idea of like doing good shit in the world in the blockchain. So why do we need our own currency? A few reasons. One, it's just cool to have your own currency. It's kind of like a badge for people. They like, yeah, I have Guard. But what then happens is the Guard Foundation, the community, can vote to give grants. So you might want to start a project. Douglas James for military, the families of fallen officers. You could do that kind of project, right? You say, hey, I think this fits in the Guard ecosystem. But I need a $500,000 grant to build this. And the Guard community can say, yes, this is definitely going to benefit our community, and vote to give the grant. Right? So by having our own currency, we kind of have an opportunity to bring in projects with grant money. So we can build out this ecosystem, this elaborate ecosystem with hundreds or thousands of other projects that all kind of fit what we're doing. And having the currency allows us to really integrate them in. Now, another project that just wants our audience. They just want to be part of it, and they choose not to, they don't get a grant or something. They can still build their project, do the mint, or only accept Guard. And what's going to happen for them is they're going to have a huge community of people that immediately go support them, even if we don't give them a grant. So it's really trying to truly decentralize as much as possible, crowdsource this. Like, hey, where's the good people doing good shit in the world? Mm-hmm. And can we make this interoperable ecosystem where there's some overlap, we're all sharing the same currency, and there's synergy. And so it's pretty cool. But that's what Guard is. Guard is actually designed to have a whole world, a whole ecosystem built on top of it that uses Guard. And it's kind of a sign of like, hey, we're doing really good shit in the world. Mm-hmm. So Guard is our currency.
Got it. Speaking of doing good shit, you did mention the mountain. Let's talk about the ranch. It's beautiful. Went up there yesterday. It was kind of bumpy ride to get there. I was like, we got to get that helo pad in so we can take the chopper. But yeah, so I mean, it's what, 400-acre ranch. We went out there. Talk a little bit about that and talk about doing good in the world. Like, what's going to take place there at the ranch?
Well, there's a 132-mile stretch, okay, here in Arizona, where you can land it at the Phoenix airport. You could drive to Genius Network headquarters, Joe Polish's office. That takes about 10 minutes. And there's about 40 minutes to here, this location right here. Mm-hmm. And then about another half hour up to the ranch. Mm-hmm. And then it's probably about another hour up to Cleator, Arizona, which is a town that Joe bought. Mm-hmm. So we have this really cool stretch of land here. It takes about 3 hours to drive the whole thing. And along that route, we're doing a lot of really good shit. So Joe's doing all this Artists for Addicts, recovery, punks, and he just does amazing stuff with
Genius
people.
Network.
The Genius Network. And then we come here and we do a lot of training and breathing and all that stuff. Then you go to the ranch, you go to Cleator. So we have this real world. We're building a metaverse version of it, so you can actually do that stretch in the metaverse. But one of the locations is 405-acre ranch. It's a beautiful mountain. I just love that we own a mountain. But we work with Grandmaster Mike Leone and Master Jason Campbell, and what they do, and they're phenomenal. You've met them. Is the whole thing is we need to remove suffering. Mm-hmm. That's really what it comes down to, and we can't do it for you. Like, you have to do it. You have to do the work. We'll show you how. We'll show you the way. You can come with us, but you got to do the work. And so what the ranch is, it's 400 acres. It's got a mountain. Right now, we're building, you saw the bunkhouse and all this stuff. This is the beginning of it. Like, how do you actually remove suffering? And step one is calm the fuck down. Mm-hmm. Just calm the fuck down. So we're building a place where there's only 108 members ever. It's up in the mountains. It'll be private as shit. But that's where you can just go to calm down.
But Nick, I need the 100x moonshot though. What's
that? You're not gonna find it up there because there's no service. So you might miss a moonshot or two, and you'll be way better off for it. Yeah. So hot springs, mountain climbing, hiking, and you're just around amazing people. And if they can afford to be one of the 108 up there, they're probably very useful people to be around, all like-minded. We also do some training up there. I swing swords and shit with Mike.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, he's always coming after me with a sword, trying to kill me. But that's what we do. It's really like, hey, this is where we go. This is where we relax. This is where we get centered. You don't have to train. Mm-hmm. It's one of the few places in the world where you actually like almost get there to that state of like just total stillness just by being there. Mm-hmm. And so that's what that's for. And we'll do a ton of like meditation, movement, all that stuff for people that make it up there. But we're going to do it in the metaverse as well, so the people that can't make it can still join. They throw on a VR headset or some shit and, breathe and move and all that stuff. So it just comes back to removing suffering. Yeah. And there's also a thing that some people are thinking about now, we've been thinking about for a while. The world could go to shit. We could hit Armageddon pretty quick. And so we have this beautiful luxury resort. And we also have like an oh shit Armageddon location with its own water, and we can grow stuff there. So it's make sure that one, it's warrior, scholar, sage, the lineage, and the warrior part is you have to be able to protect yourself and people that care about you. So it's also just to make sure that all of our people have somewhere to go if shit hits the fan.
Wow. Yeah, I say that joke. It's just funny because, as you know, most people in the crypto space, they're just looking to make the next 10x, right? But there's the whole other side. Well, it's an addictive personality. It's gambling addiction, right? There's a lot of underlying things that people don't address, right? So that's why I really love like what you're doing, especially what we've experienced in the last 2 years. People need to be prepared for what's coming, right? Because eventually, when this market recovers, there's going to be millionaires, decamillionaires, and billionaires made during that time, and people need prepared on how to handle that, unless they'll go to zero, right? Not necessarily the market, right? So, yeah, big believer in what you're doing, and congrats to everything I've seen. I mean, I've been up here for like 3 weeks now, so we've had a lot of time together and I've seen a lot of things. So, in wrapping up here, Nic, what do you think are, just leaving the audience, leaving me like feeling inspired, like with investing in crypto, like what would be like something you would want them to just take away right now with everything that's happened?
Here's your answer. Calm the fuck down. No, so seriously, I say calm the fuck down because the surest way to guarantee people don't calm down is to tell them to calm down. It's just fun to watch. But you think about the history, like look at your own life. When Ethereum was like $4,000, okay? And the truth is most people have a macro belief in dollars. They want more dollars. That's what people want. They say they don't, but when you count everything in dollars, then your brain wants dollars. So Ethereum was $4,000, and they were trading every day, trying to get these moonshots. They hit it, lose it, hit it, lose it, hit it, lose it, whatever. And I was on a big group, and I said, okay, how many of you remember when you got into crypto? And everybody remembered when they got into crypto. I said, how many would have, and then like Ethereum went up a tiny bit from there. Well, how many would have more money right now if you did nothing? If you just bought Ethereum and did nothing? And everybody's like, except for like 2, we're like, oh, like, yeah, stop pushing buttons, stop rushing, stop panicking. It's not a good, like, because you're bored, because you're in a hurry, because you feel pressure. Those are not good reasons to do stuff. And you, Dr. Jeff, right? You know this. These are not good reasons to do stuff. So where's the inspiration in that? The inspiration in that is that if you just position yourself with enough capital or so little capital that you don't have to panic about it, you can just let it sit for some amount of time, and you can not push buttons, you're probably going to end up better off than you could ever imagine. Where crypto is going, post-regulation, like trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars are coming. There's no doubt about it. Assuming regulation happens, which it will. So the positive is like figure out what you believe in. Bitcoin, for me, it's guard. And that's just where I sit. It could be Bitcoin, it could be Ethereum. You could think that maybe Matic is the thing, whatever. But it's not going anywhere. It's going to become regulated. Microsoft, Google, all of these companies are going to at least have a little exposure to it. Like they all have speculative treasuries. So if you are exposed to crypto now, even if you bought Bitcoin at 69 grand, if you're exposed to it now and you're thinking about it now, you are still so early. And if you can just not fuck yourself up, you're going to be so well off. And so it's like, it's inspirational in the sense like do nothing, but people want to be inspired to do stuff. And like just don't. Position yourself, my opinion, position yourself in crypto, and then go fucking do good stuff in the world. And you will have 2 things. You'll do good stuff in the world, you'll get goodwill, you'll get some karmic merit, and then one day you're going to look and realize you are so incredibly wealthy you can't even understand how it happened. So that's the inspiration. Just chill out. If you need to do something, go do something useful in the world. Don't push buttons.
Got it. Don't fuck yourself up. And the last thing is guard your guard.
Guard your guard.
Guard your guard. Nic, appreciate the interview, brother. Thank
Likewise.
you so much for this.
Absolutely.
See you guys later.